really traveled anywhere, but I'd love to someday. However, based on this list, I feel like I can safely say this is a list of places I won't go. I'm your host Michaela, and today I'll be telling you the top 10 most expensive places to live that no one can afford. And make sure to subscribe because it really helps us out, but now let's get started. Number 10, Luxembourg. A city that looks straight out of a storybook, Luxembourg is both ranked in the top 2% of the list of best places to live in the world, and number 1 as a best city to live in Luxembourg. Not only is the country the second richest country in the world, known for award-winning wines, but the capital, Luxembourg, is famous for its underground network of tunnels and is a hub for finance and private banking. Rent for a 2-bedroom apartment would cost around $25,000 a year, not including any amenities, public transportation, etc. Due to increasing population, lack of new housing, and rising housing prices, the cost of living is only increasing in this expensive city. Number 9, Washington, D.C. This compact area on the Potomac River is home to the headquarters for the United States government, as well as many iconic museums and performing arts venues. According to GoBankingRates.com, to live comfortably as a renter, you need to make a little over $87,000 a year, and to live comfortably as a homeowner, you need to make almost $140,000 a year, both which are extremely difficult when you consider the fact that the median income in Washington, D.C. is around $90,000. Number 8, Switzerland. Starting off with Bern. Bern, the capital city of Switzerland, stuns with its medieval architecture, fountains, and deep history. It's even been recognized as a World Heritage Site. The average price for a week-long trip would cost a family for almost $6,000, and rent and daily expenses for someone who lives there typically reach sky-high prices of about $2,500 a month. Now on to Basel. Switzerland's oldest university city, located on the Rhine River and close to Switzerland's borders with France and Germany, Basel is home to the world's biggest art fair every June. For an estimated cost of around $3,000 a month, you can live among historical buildings, modern architecture, a dynamic art scene, and more. Now, Geneva. Famous for the world's tallest water fountain, Geneva is a city with tons of luxe cafes and shopping for days. But all that luxury does come at a high price. Just for an individual, monthly expenses average out to about $3,500 when it comes to rent, food, and transportation. Just one glance at Zurich and you can see why the stunning city is one of the priciest in the world. The financial capital, which sits at the north end of the lake Zurich, is home to waterfront promenades, high-end shopping, and amazing chocolate. It's also the most expensive Swiss city to rent in, with an average rent cost of about $2,000 for a single person. Number 7, Toronto. Toronto is one of the most expensive places to live in Canada, and also the most populated. Like Vancouver, Toronto ranks high among the most expensive cities to live in the world. It costs an average of $1.2 million to buy a house in Toronto. The average monthly rent in Toronto is around $1,900 for a 1-bedroom apartment. Due to the high population in Toronto, there's a high demand and short supply for real estate. This causes a spike in the price of the available properties. Additionally, Toronto is the economic center of Canada with many job opportunities, which also contribute to the influx of people. These factors also affect the cost of living in Toronto. Number 6, Oslo, Norway. As the economic and governmental center of Norway, Oslo is a hub for trading, banking, industry, and shipping, making it a thriving business center and affluent city. The eco-conscious capital city sits on the country's southern coast at the head of the Oslofjord River, and is famous for its incredible seafood, museums, and Viking history. With that in mind, it only makes sense that this bustling city costs the average person about $2,300 a month, making it one of the most expensive cities in the world. Number 5, China. Starting off with Shanghai. Shanghai, named the world's most expensive city in the world by Forbes in 2021, is an energizing city booming with business and billionaires. In 2021, it has the 6th largest concentration of billionaires in the world, as China's biggest city and global financial hub with its stunning skyline, rich cultural history, and more. It's not shocking how many people want to live there and reside in this coastal city. With so many people living and working there, however, the area has some of the highest prices, with the average cost of living coming in at around $1,400 a month. Now on to Hong Kong. The biggest reason Hong Kong is on this list is simply because of how many people reside in the Chinese city. With over 7 million people living in the city alone, it's not necessarily the cost of rent that makes it a pricey city, but rather the competitive demand for housing and all the activities the city has to offer, like its endless markets, nightlife, and attractions. Lastly, Shenzhen. Shenzhen is a thriving, popular city home to many of China's younger generation. With the average age being 32 years old, this makes it one of the youngest cities in the country. Although rent and food are especially pricey, you can count on utilities and internet to be inexpensive. Number 4, Brooklyn, New York. Technically, Brooklyn is one of the 5 boroughs that make up New York City, but in the past 15 years or so, it has emerged as something of the metropolis unto itself. Indeed, if Brooklyn were an independent city, its population would be on par with Chicago, the 3rd largest city in the nation. Once upon a time, Brooklyn was considered a viable alternative for those who couldn't afford to live in Manhattan. Not anymore though. Housing-related expenses, including rents and mortgages, are almost 4 times higher than the national average, and yet the median household income in Brooklyn is actually lower than the US median. It's also over $25,000 below in the median household income in Manhattan. Happily, not everything in Brooklyn is eye-wateringly expensive. Utilities run about 7% higher than the national average, and healthcare is only about 4% more expensive. Groceries, utilities, and transportation expenses all are about 11% more than what the typical American pays. Number 3, Singapore. Between 2014 and 2020, Singapore was named the world's most expensive city 6 times. For one thing, because it is such a small area, land is incredibly scarce. In addition, as the demand for property has increased, the supply has been limited, making the real estate market very competitive. The city also has very few natural resources and must rely on ports to import basic necessities like water, natural gas, electricity. Number 2, California. First, I'm gonna start off with Oakland. Oakland anchors one corner of a sort of Bermuda Triangle around San Francisco Bay Area, where affordable prices go missing. The second corner is San Francisco, as famous for its sky-high real estate as it is for Alcatraz and Fisherman's Wharf. The third corner is Silicon Valley, home to tech giants handing out 6-figure salaries like candy on Halloween. Compared to its neighbors to the west and south, Oakland might seem like a bargain, but consider this. Although median household income in Oakland is about 23% higher than the national level, median home values are more than 3 times the US as a whole. Rents and other costs for keeping a roof over one's head are simply elevated in Oakland. Total housing-related expenses are nearly 3 times higher than the national average. Groceries, utilities, and healthcare costs all run about 30% higher than the national average, while transportation costs almost 40% more. Now Los Angeles. There's a reason Hollywood celebs are dropping a lot of dough in a new apartment or home. It costs a lot to live that glamorous Hollywood lifestyle. Not only is Los Angeles' location a major reason why housing is so competitive, especially with a population of 10 million people, but LA's high taxes for residents and sales tax of 9.5% make it costly to live there. In January 2020, apartment rentals reached an average of over $2,500, almost doubling the national average. And just to put it in perspective for you, the population of California is bigger than the whole population of Canada. Number 1, Honolulu, Hawaii. To enjoy the perks of living in such a remote Pacific paradise, Honolulu residents pay more than they would on the mainland for pretty much everything. And it's not too hard to understand why. Most goods sold in Hawaii must arrive either by boat or by plane, which jacks up the price considerably. Honolulu has the most expensive groceries by far of all 262 urban areas surveyed for the cost of living index. A can of tuna, for example, is 31% more expensive than the US national average, while a dozen eggs are 2.5 times pricier. Even bananas cost more than double the national average. Bills can take a big bite as well. Utilities cost 2.4 times more than what folks pay on the US mainland, and healthcare and transportation are a fifth to a quarter more expensive than the US average. But as always, housing is the biggest income eater. Housing-related costs are more than 4 times the national average in Honolulu. The average home carries a price of $1.5 million. But that is all, and thanks for watching.